Hi everybody, my name's Scott Walls. In this video, I'm going to explain how Strat ERP structures its contract service providers for compensation. So let's get started. Okay, so here's the slides we'll use for today's topic. So we'll start with role types, then levels, then provider 1, 2, managing provider, directing provider. We'll talk a little bit about how levels determine comp, or at least windows or bands. And then finally, we'll show you how you can find your level at any point in time. So with that, let's go to slide 1. What are the 4 role types, and how does Strat ERP use those role types to group its providers? So first you have what's called an application-specific role type, or what they've traditionally called a functional role. Then next you have a technology-specific role type, or a technical role. Then you have an operations role. So think of this like an end user, buyer, materials manager. These are the folks who use the software. And then lastly, we grouped all the other roles into what we call project roles. So whether it's program director, PMO, project manager, tester, OCM for change, training, corporate training, this kind of stuff. Those are all grouped under project roles. The role types group contract service providers based on the type of roles they perform for our clients. Okay, next up, within each role type, how does Strat ERP stratify providers for compensation? Well, let's take a look. It's pretty basic and pretty consistent. We use levels to stratify our providers, or our contract service providers, for compensation. Next, slide 3. Within the application-specific role type, so we're going to focus on this role type, but it's pretty consistent throughout all the role types. What are the criteria for a level 1 contract service provider? Well, you want to have 1 to 2 years of Oracle Cloud experience. You want to, in those 2 years, provide or create mastery of 4 to 8 applications. Now, this somewhat depends, right? It's different functional areas or different technologies are more or less involved. If you're in payables, it's 2 apps. But if you're in procurement, it's 8. So use some common sense here, but you really want to have a good grasp of a functional area. You have to be a X kind of consultant, a reporting or a procurement or a GL or record to report, right? So that's a little bit how you do that. What you need to do to exit service provider level 1 is you need to have at least 1 end-to-end deployment spanning all phases, and then you need to have a successful client reference for that deployment. Okay, now within, again, the same app-specific role type, what are the criteria for a level 2 contract service provider? Okay, now from Oracle Cloud, you obviously want to have 2 or more years of experience. You still want to have the same concept in terms of the applications that you're gaining mastery of. It's pretty consistent. You know, if I'm in procurement, I can stay there for a while. But if I did payables, I probably now want to start to do fixed assets, or maybe it's general accounting and what are the other functional areas. I do want to start to broaden my marketability. And then you want to have at least 3 end-to-end deployments spanning all phases. You want to have those same 3 successful client references. And then you want to have at least 1 successful direct report, right? And you'll see why. Let's take a look at the next slide. Now we're talking about a managing provider. So we've separated the doer, first year learning, second year getting much better, and starting to dip your toe into managing others. And now you're moving into a managing provider role, right? And so what you want to do here is you want to have 3 to 5 years cloud experience. So you're still continuing to build out your experience, but now you're starting to shift into more of, you do deployment, but you're really working to find staff, to get them trained, and to support other application service providers. You're also switching your income base here from a doer of work into a manager of others that are doing work based on the work that you know. And so here you want to have 5 end-to-end deployments spanning all phases. You want the creation of at least 1 functional areas training content, right? So think about it. If you're a managing provider, you have created and demonstrated an expertise, and you've built some training that people come in, they take, and then you assist them to build other clients, right? And so that's this whole concept of managing. It's not just to manage somebody, it's to build the soft infrastructure to train them, then to get them placed, then to manage them. It's the whole concept of a firm within a firm. All right, now, next to last is the directing provider role type, or the criteria. What are the criteria for a level 4 contract service provider? Well, we kind of stay the same in terms of Oracle experience, and probably the experience is more strategic in knowing the value of the apps as opposed to the configuration and how to put them in. But you're looking for that 5 to 8 years experience. You're probably not as focused on building skills as you are on finding clients to put them in, and I'll explain here in a minute. Now, mastery, same thing. You're still looking at maybe some deploying, but not really, more of a managing role. And so then you're finding the staff, you're supporting different managing providers. That's a big deal. So you're not as involved with ASPs 1 or 2. You're supporting the managing providers that support them. And so with that, you would want to oversee the training that they're creating. You would want to continue to push to get this whole idea of more training so that we can train more people and get them rolled out. But you're also starting to create or manage managing providers. And most importantly, you have to find, just like the managing providers have to get people ready to go somewhere, the directing providers are finding the somewhere or working with sales teams to find those people and then managing those those endeavors or those contracts or those different projects once they get them or once we get them. So that's it. Next, slide 7, levels determine compensation. So let's take a quick look and we'll understand why do we comp this out. Well, think about it. It's different time periods. There's learning to do, doing really well and starting to manage, managing teams, and then finding places for those teams to find works. So as you can imagine, those are very different skills, each more involved and building on the last. And so we use these different levels to band the different compensation. Now, I could give you an idea of what those bands are, but the unfortunate part is that they'll probably change, or they could change at any point in time based on economic reasons, based on inflation, based on whatever. But the concept is that we use levels to create bands for compensation. Lastly, what is your role type or level? Well, to find your role type or your level, just go to your SOW on the left-hand side of that SOW. You can see it here. It will tell you what your role type is in case you don't already know it. You should. And then it'll also tell you your level. Now, since levels are important, levels go into bands of compensation. If you've just switched a level, then the next SOW you have should reflect that switch. If it doesn't, then you want to make sure that it does. So that's it. That's the end of this video. Hopefully you now understand how we structure contract service providers for compensation. Thanks for watching.